Happy Wednesday, hump day. I guess it's all downhill from here. Going back to my corporate days, hump day. It has arrived. Here we are. Were you wondering what you're looking at? This is it, the Imperfect Action live stream. I host this every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Why do I call it the Imperfect Action live stream? You know what? Because there's no such thing as the perfect time. I've seen too many people want to wait around for the perfect time to do something with their lives. And they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait because there is no such thing as the perfect time. And even how they describe that time to be for them to do action, they would negotiate their way out of it. I just say, just take the action. Don't worry about it. Just take the imperfect action. So, who am I? Well, who am I? I am Rob Fenstermaker. I'm a former corporate burnout survivor turned kingdom builder. Your kingdom builder. What do I do? I help people get out of the rut. How do I do that? I help them to create a solid foundation for their life, and I get them in action with what it is they want to accomplish. Hey, a couple of things going on this week as well. This Friday, if you've never attended, it's the virtual Friday whiskey hour at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Stop by. It's a great way to bring your work week to an end where we have some meaningful conversations. I hold this every other Friday. Our last Friday that we held it, we talked about the different generations and how they can impact the world. This was a caveat because that week that we held it was the 60th anniversary, or I'm sorry, 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, and I consider that the greatest generation of all time in this country. Every other Tuesday at 11 o'clock is the Iron Sharpens Iron community. Go stop by and check that out as well. But enough of that. It's time to get on with this to the Imperfect Action live stream. It's time for me to introduce my guest, Coach Hess. Who is Coach Hess? He is a business coach and author, a pancreatic survivor, a cancer survivor. He is also was at one point the manager of the Magic Johnson basketball camp. That's amazing. He's also a bike rider. He loves to bike. Um, you know, uh, Coach Hess, hey, thank you for joining the Imperfect Action live stream. I shared with you, I didn't realize you were a bike rider. This morning when I got up, I went ahead and jumped on my bike. I love to bike ride as well. I don't necessarily do the kind of riding you do. I picked up riding when I lived in Turkey back in 2004. Started doing mountain bike riding because I lived right next to one of these mountain ranges, and we started doing mountain bike riding. That's when I really kind of got in. But this morning I got up, did a 15-mile ride. As the crow flies, I'm a mile from the ocean, so there's a road I love to go down. It's a canopy road, goes right along the ocean. That is a great way to start your morning. The turtle patrol was out because down here in South Florida, it's turtle laying season, turtle egg laying season right now. So they were out marking the nest. There were dolphins out there. There's not a better way to start your Wednesday. How is your Wednesday going? What fantastic things have been going on in your Wednesday today so far?
Well, you know, I appreciate you having me on first and foremost, Rob. Thank you very much. Yeah, my Wednesday's been a good day.
Yeah.
I guess I'm pretty tight on my calendar. I have things well organized, and I meet with clients,
Yeah.
and everything's filled in. And so I've had several great experiences today, just in doing my regular thing as a business coach and seeing people grow. We're getting set for something we call Growth Club. And so my clients come prepared for their plan and come to the coaching session today with their kind of check off on what does my Q3 plan look like. And we refine that and get it tight. And hey, it's always fun to get some planning in place and create some success, of course. So it's been a good Wednesday.
Yes. That's a good way to, you got to have a destination. That plan is that destination. I call it your roadmap. What's that roadmap you're doing? Because you're going to end up somewhere. You're destined to end up somewhere. You might as well make it the journey you want it to be.
Right, right. We get our own choice to make our paths. That's the fun thing about building these plans, because I've rolled these plans right down into the personnel, and each individual person. What I've found is that they build their plans, right, for at least we do usually a monthly thing. But what happens is they take ownership. And once they take ownership, they're in a different perspective in terms of being an addition to the team. And it works real well, let everybody kind of get on the planning structure. But yeah.
Ownership is powerful because it creates that, what I call that victor mindset. Be a victor, not a victim.
Right.
If you don't take ownership, you're just being a victim, and you want to blame everyone else and everything else for your lack of success, for your lack of doing anything. Yeah. And if all you're going to do is blame, to me, all you're doing is being lazy and making excuses. So stop blaming, because you have control over what it is you want to do. And we have too many victims in our society today, and we need to really encourage those people to create that victor mindset. I think that's so valuable, so important, because you're a leader. If you have that mindset of a victor, you're a leader, and we need leaders.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we have peaks and valleys in our lives, and
Oh yeah,
one of the things that I wrote about in my peak experiences book, was about how you deal with those valleys and how those valleys turn into opportunities. And with the right mindset, you can do that. And that's the resilient mindset that you need to have sometimes, where you can be kind of taking yourself down to, like you said, the victim status. When, wait a minute, this is an
yeah,
opportunity for me. What am I going to learn from this? How am I going to get better?
yeah,
I'll just share an
yeah.
extreme one if you'd like on that.
Go
Road,
ahead. Go ahead.
you mentioned that I'm a survivor of pancreatic cancer, and you talk about a valley. Let me tell you, when that was
Hmm.
diagnosed and I went into surgery and so on. When I came out, kind of found out that it looked like it might have been an encapsulated, and we might have got it all, and there was lots of celebrating around that once it all came back with that. Well, what I realized is that I had recovery. I was going to be in that hospital several days. And one of the things they want you to do is get up and walk around whenever you've had major
Hmm.
surgery like that,
Yeah,
especially gut. So
true.
I've got my poles and everything, and I'm walking up and down, and moving around, just getting moving. All the
Yeah,
stuff hooked up to my arms. And I started looking into other people's rooms, and I realized that a lot of people didn't move. When I'd walked the last time, they weren't
yeah,
moving. It was kind of a sad place to be. And it was, again, a deep valley. And as I looked at that, I said,
yeah.
wait a minute, is this an opportunity? Yes, it is. And what I did is I started
Hmm.
walking into those people's rooms and started to talk to them about what's going on. Because you know what? Almost every one of them were on their deathbed. And so, what do people have
Yeah,
in their mind when they're in that kind of position? And what it came out loud and clear, every one of them, it's about family. It's really about
yeah.
our family. And I guess there's the situation where I was in a deep valley and I turned it around into something that I learned, and I'll carry that story to everybody to remind them, hey, the real meal deals, be close to your family, because in the end, that's
Be
what you're going to
close.
remember and care about.
Yeah, yeah. I've always, the saying is nobody's ever sat on their deathbed and say, "Hey, I wish I would have spent more time in the office."
Ain't that the truth?
No one's ever regretted that. They've regretted not, doing those things that have made a difference. And family is one of those things that make a difference. And I believe that we begin a life for a purpose and a reason. I think that reason is to serve others in a powerful way, and to do so out of abundance. Don't
Hmm.
live out of scarcity. Live out of abundance. Give of yourself to others.
Right.
As a sports analogy, since if you're a sportsman yourself, leave it all on the playing field.
Yeah.
Leave it all out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm 100% in line with you on that. As far as I think it comes down to in our sense of our whys, and what we do. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to just share with you where I didn't figure that out until I was in my 60s. I'm 68 now, but I kind of
Okay.
I realized I always had it in my life. It was
Yeah.
always there, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know to be smart enough, I guess, to say, hey, this is what you're about. So, around
Yeah.
C2, I'm looking back and I go all the way back to when I'm 8 years old. And I remember being at
Yeah.
in a gym, playing basketball, taking the ball down the middle of the floor, giving a little head fake, throwing it over to somebody else who scored the layup. And we won the game. And so the
Yeah.
excitement for me was that as a team and that whole thing, that was it, giving the
Yeah.
assist. And so I realized that throughout my life and all the different things I've done in my career, from my coaching and teaching to my business career to now my business coaching career, it's always been about giving the assist. That's what turns me on.
Yeah.
That's what gets me excited. When you find that there's no difference between when you're playing and when you're working, you found your why. And it's a shame I didn't
Yeah.
really come to that until a little later in life. But I hope other people can
Yeah.
find that earlier. And that's kind of one of the reasons I wrote the book, is to bring that kind of
Yeah.
experience to people and have them think about what really is it behind it. Because I think a lot of people live their whole life and never figured out.
They do. That's true. That's true. And how you describe that, there's a quote that I've always loved, that I've resonated for years, by LP Jacks, about you may have heard it, the master in the art of living.
Yeah.
It's a fairly famous quote, and he just talks about, they are so in tune with who they are, they can't differentiate between their work and play,
Yeah.
and they do everything with excellence, regardless of what they're doing. And um, living your life with excellence is so powerful. My time in corporate, you just saw so many people that was just Oh God, it's Monday, and thank God it's Friday. Oh God, it's Monday, and they just go through this cycle. Just go through this cycle.
Yeah,
And it's I got I kind of got caught up in that as well,
right.
because I one of the things that especially we men do, we really create an identity around that 9 to 5.
Yeah,
And I've been through 3 corporate downsizings, and going through them, um, especially the first one, even though I knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. When you walk in the office that morning and there's HR to greet you at the door and hand you a packet and march you into the conference room, you're like,
yeah,
here we go.
yeah, yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. But
Never a
it takes
comfortable
winds
experience.
out. It takes the wind out of your sails when you created this false identity around something that is not really who you are.
Yeah,
And one thing that I just see too many men do, when they introduce them, what do you do? What do you do? And what they mean is, what do you do with that 9 to 5? What's that 9 to 5? What's your identity with that 9 to 5?
right.
And if it's not the right 9 to 5 identity in some circles, you're thought of as less.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Quick judgment, always interesting. Well, I'm just going to jump a little bit into the idea you brought up there of, really being all we can be and the excellence that goes with that,
Yeah.
and so on. I found when I was writing my book, the peak experience thing is that what seemed to reemerge over and over was it's the real peak experiences that I've had in my life. There was a lot of deliberate practice involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
the things that are worth really grabbing and getting in life is stepping up and getting good at it. And example, I have opening chapter, I talk about the slopes of life, and I'm going off a 30-foot cornice, whole build up to it in deep powder. At Lake Louise, I go off a 30-foot cornice into powder up to my neck, and I take a mile run of perfect S turns and the whole experience of the 3D feel of that. Truly a peak experience where time slows down to nothing. Nothing else matters in the world. You have that warm sense of I've got control because you've got that confidence that goes with that. Because I've been skiing for 30 years before that happened.
Yeah.
I had the practice to get to that unbelievable experience. And I think if we can identify those things in our lives where we have these peak experiences, because what happens is that I think a massive amount of knowledge is comprehended at that time that then manifests over time. You can, when I think, I make the analogy of even speaking engagements and this and that, of being able to take that experience into the next levels of other things and be able to take that confidence and that feel into being very powerful on the stage, and on and on and on. And so the reason for the book and really trying to get people to find their own true, what's it all about for me and their why, and taking that passion and doing something with their lives or doing more with their lives and find more peak experiences in the process. So that's kind of triggered my thought around peak experiences and what I've written, and where it's at.
Now the book was just released. We're here within the last month.
Yeah, just in the last month.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a great book.
What was the process like at going through, as you're writing the book and getting everything done? How long did it take you, for one, from start to finish, from start to the day it was released? How long was that process?
I'll be glad to share all that with you. I'd been thinking about the concept of peak experiences probably from when I was studying psychology at the University of Calgary in 1977 and ran across Abraham Maslow and the peak experience thing he described in self-actualization there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I really comprehended all that and didn't really put it all together until I decided at the first of this year, where I golf in a league every Saturday morning that takes up a 5-hour time shot every time. So I looked at my calendar and I'm planning out my next calendar. I said, you know what? If I take golf out of there, I could get a book written probably in a quarter or in several months. So I'm going to dedicate that time to writing a book. And I did. And so the way I started it is, again, I have these peak experiences that I have a whole list of them that I'd thought about. I went straight to video. I'm better at talking it than I am writing it. So I told my story about all 12 of them in 5-minute type stories. Then I transcribed that, of course. And from transcribing that, then I worked from there into building in the chapters and organizing it and setting it up.
Okay.
I think the video to the text saved me a lot of time. And then and getting ready. So that was that step. And once I got that done, I hired an editor. And had an editor work with me that went back and forth to kind of clean up the sequence and some of the writing. And, I'm not perfect in all tenses, and got another set of eyes that really helped. And then I hired a publisher, and the publisher basically took the book, and put it into a PDF format that I could download or directly into Amazon, and also did my cover. I was really happy with the cover and the way it turned out. I mean, it was real. I had the vision of that, and then he put it together, cover in the back. Got that all done, and so then I uploaded onto Amazon, and next thing I know, I'm a published author. So
there you go.
One of the things I realized in the process, Rob, is that part was probably easier than the next part, and that's the marketing and getting the book out and all of the things that go with that.
Yeah, you got to have a book launch and all that. You have to have a book launch.
Yeah, I did a book launch, and I got a hold of one of the local breweries that is called Voodoo Brewery. They're a chain, but they have one here in Katy, Texas, local to me. So I got them set up with, hey, how about if we sell a book for $20, give everybody a free beer, and then I'll donate all 20 of the dollars into a place called Christ Clinic, which is a charity that really needs money, and they help people that can't afford, they don't have health insurance and so on. And they're a huge benefit to our community. So we did that. And it turned out we got a big crowd. I got good local media coverage and everything else. And we went through, turned over about, a big chunk of money to them, and they were really happy about it. I'm happy to be able to give back in that way.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think life lived out of abundance is the way we're to live.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely believe when we open our hearts, let life flow into us and flow out, what returns to us is tenfold. And I'm a person of faith, and I can back that up with parables that Jesus told us in the Bible about how that is in fact truth. And when I've lived my life that way, I have seen a difference. And just not for me, but it's not about you. It's about serving others and the impact you can make. One of the most significant things I ever did was out of abundance. I decided just imperfect action again. I decided, you know what? I'm gonna build a freshwater well in a third world village. Just hey, I'm gonna do this. So we raised the money. We built a freshwater. I had some people that were missionaries in Ethiopia. We identified the village. We built this freshwater well, and it was on the side of a mountain. There was a medical, and I didn't know all the details till later, till after we had done this. So it was a village of maybe 300 people. And, they'd send the young girls down the side of the mountain each morning to go to the river and get whatever water they could.
And there goes the
disease. What the status that water was. But there was also a little clinic there. And so that once we put that well in, that was the first time this clinic actually had running water. And these are people I'm never going to meet, but just doing some type of action change people's lives. And that's what we have the opportunity to do each and every day. And it's usually not the big grandiose things. This was not a big, this was to me, a small act of benevolence about what we did, but it changed people's lives. And it's those small acts of things we can do out of abundance that will change people's lives. I absolutely believe that. It's the right word, a kind word, a smile. We don't know how that can change somebody's life in an impactful way. We never know.
Yeah,
we never know.
Yeah, living in the moment is so critical. I'm a member of Rotary Club, and obviously service before self is kind of the whole basis of that. One of the things we do here in Katy is we run a thing called a brew fest. We have 3 major fundraising events. One's called a brew fest, one's a Katy triathlon, and the third one is a harvest festival. And we're kind of the major fundraisers for us. In the end, we make about $500,000 a year that we give 100% back to the community. But this Brewfest thing that we've got going, we've been running it for about 10, 11 years now. And me being in the business coach mode and kind of like to get systems in place so that we have repeatability and we can get continuous improvement nonstop. Guess what? I got a playbook written for the whole thing. And we want to distribute that to all Rotaries in the world to run similar events because it's a blast. And we raise a lot of money, through the silent auctions, the live auctions, all the brewers that are involved. We have over 200 brewers come each year now. It's, several live bands. It's a big event. And I think it's probably the second largest in North America now, as far as that type of an event. One
Okay.
in Colorado that might
Cool.
be. Yeah, so there it is. Give it back. And the way we do that in Rotary is that everybody that's in Rotary has to apply for the grants of how we distribute that. So as a Rotarian, I've got to pick a charity that I want to support. I need to write the grant for them, and that's how we'll get. And then it goes
Okay.
through the board for approval, which I think makes it really, of course, 100% is going back. And talk about service above self. It just feels real good to do that stuff, doesn't it, Rob?
It does. It does. And like I said, we're here to serve others. Don't live out of scarcity. Nobody wants to be around that person that just has a scarcity transactional mindset. You want to be around the people that live out of abundance and serve.
Yeah.
And serve. So I mean, we all, you're in business, I'm in business. Yes, I want my business to be successful. But I'm also not going to treat people transactionally because
This doesn't work
that
out.
that always comes back and kicks you in the butt. Always will.
A success story I've recently had around abundance is I'm working with an insurance agency, and the nature of the dynamics in terms of how it's being run is there's one very dominant female that's kind of overseeing lots of things, right? And
Yeah.
as time goes on, and I had lots of talks about abundance and how to think things out. Eventually, she concluded that she needed to pull herself away from running the operation, let everybody else do their thing, so they can grow, because she was holding them back.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there you go. That was a great conclusion of abundance. Way to go. And you know what? It's turned out to be extremely successful. Everybody's thriving rather than just kind of, the company was still doing okay, but now it's doing much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen two types of leaders: the ones that lead out of abundance, and the ones that lead out of scarcity. The ones that lead out of scarcity, they have a fear of being replaced or whatever, and their organization flails and struggles. But those who live out of abundance, you know what? They lift others up. They delegate their authority. I'd say trust but verify. I That's been my leadership style. I was an Army officer. I definitely delegated my authority because I wanted to see, my soldiers be successful.
Right.
I didn't want, I wanted to I wanted to have a successful company, but I also wanted my soldiers to be successful and, take that next level of what they could become. And that's only through abundance. That's only through abundance that you can do that. And you just got to, as a leader, you just got to remove yourself and, not take all the glory, be willing to identify others. When they do a good job.
I had a fortunate opportunity earlier in my life to work with this guy named Magic Johnson when I was running his camps for him at Cal Lutheran University. And one of the chapters of my book is elevating others. That's what Magic Johnson does, what you're talking about in abundance. And I just want to share one of the things that we did in camp real quick that I think really created that kind of spirit and encouragement of of something more than me and bigger than me than I can be a part of. We had about 200 kids in camp, so 20 groups of 10. So each morning we'd show up in the gym, and Magic would come and give a little talk about motivate people a little, get them a story or two of out of Lansing or wherever. Always talked about the importance of the left hand and how what didn't make a team until I figured it out, whatever. But as we're doing all of that, each group of each of the 10 groups has their own sound off, right? So once in a while, he'll point at one of their groups, and they know when he points a certain way, it's woo, whatever the sound off might be. And we kind of keep that as kind of a group identity thing as we run our stations throughout. Well, on Friday, after we've been through a full week of camp, he comes in and then he says, okay, when I point out, you make your sound. So he starts pointing at the groups. And after you get about to the fifth one, you recognize it's the Michigan State Spartans fight song to the T. What a powerful moment of everybody just coming together, and how he had that coordinated, I don't know. But it was certainly
that's pretty cool.
Uplifting, to say the least, and kind of like a big aha moment for everyone, for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. And I'm an Ohio State fan. I'll be the first to admit I grew up in Ohio. I went to Ohio State University, but I remember Magic Johnson when he was at Sparty. I remember it very well. I remember one game in particular. I didn't go to the game, but they played at the old St. John Arena, which was the, Ohio State's home court.
Sure.
And there was a blizzard in Columbus, but the game still went on. And I remember this game. I still remember this, watching it on TV. And he got hurt in that game,
Huh.
and so he had to go on the bench because I can't remember, did his knee or ankle, whatever. They had to take him out because he had some slight injury. And so Ohio State's making a run. They're coming back. They're coming back. It actually took the lead in this game. It's going well into the second half.
Right.
And Judd Heathcote, you remember Judd Heathcote? He was the coach.
Oh yeah.
I remember he walked over and he's kind of looked at him, and Magic kind of gave him a nod. He's like, "Get up, you're back in." And that was it. That was the game. Game over. Once the Magic got back in, game over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the year they won the title. The final game, Magic and Bird. And the thing that made Magic so great, and I that's when I really loved the NBA. You got the Showtime Lakers, the Bad
Yeah.
Boy
Oh
Pistons,
yeah.
and the Celtics with all that. That's when I just loved the NBA. It wasn't so much his scoring; it was his passing of the ball. I mean, he dished that ball out. Like, he found the open man and he get him the ball. That's what made the Showtime Lakers who they were.
I'm with you. Well, you know why I feel and have maybe that influence further my why, as my whole assist I was talking about earlier. But yeah, Magic was very interesting to work with, because I also worked with Byron Scott, and I was able to spend some time with John Wooden as well and some of his things. But
okay,
Magic was truly a special type guy, in that he just, like I say, he elevated others. And one of the things that I did in every camp, a best practice, and I still do it today. I mean, if you look, there's a board behind me. I usually have whoever I'm talking to, their name there. Well, when we did a basketball camp and when I'm signing everybody in, Magic's there, I'm taking a piece of the old white tape we had, writing their name on it, putting it on the right side of their shoe. Everybody had their name on their shoe. Well, Magic's like, "This is awesome, Coach Hess. You're amazing." This is, because he knew the difference of being able to coach these kids in their group and be able to call them by name. So it was very powerful, and he sort of picked up on that. I was kind of surprised. And then years later, I was the chief, director of energy for Sun Microsystem. I was invited to welcome him to the Final Four for the Sun Microsystem team. We had our 40 best clients kind of there, right? The old corporate world. And they say, "Hey, Magic, why don't you, come and greet him?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I can fit that into my schedule." And I'm thinking it was 10 years later after I'd done the camps with him. "Hey, he's not going to remember me. He's big time, whatever." So I get there and kind of do the he comes out and is act like he long lost friend. Goes out and kisses my wife in the crowd, like Mr. I remember he remembered that name thing. He was all over it. I couldn't win 10 years before now.
Yeah,
wow, that is impressive. Impressive.
Names are powerful, and when you know somebody's name, that is so powerful. And I've got a long last name, and it has been so butchered and mispronounced over the years. I'm just like, whatever. It can't be any easier. It's just pronounced the way it's spelled. You just say it phonetically. Even people do. They'll still say, well, they'll come up with some. I'm just like, but names are powerful. Knowing somebody's name and saying that name is very honoring. And especially for I'm assuming these children were probably 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
To have some 10-year-old boy have Magic Johnson say their name, that is something that I'm sure they ran home and told mom and dad, hey, you're not going to believe Magic Johnson knows my name.
Yeah. And the power of that's just unbelievable. Now, I picked up on that as a school teacher. When I was a school teacher at 21 years old, teaching kids that were in 19, 20. But what I realized in the classroom situation is when everybody knew, not only I knew everybody's name, but everybody knew everybody's name. The atmosphere, the environment was 100% better. Really improved every time. And so I would do chair kind of chain exercises, right? First guy says his name, second guy, then all the way down and up and back and forth, and then go back the other way, see if you can remember every name. Just for fun, but it was always a very good exercise. I find the same thing in coaching. Go ahead.
It does create that team concept. And like I said, I'm an Ohio State fan. And I remember when Jim Tressel was the football coach at Ohio State University. One of the things he would do every fall camp, he at the end of camp, he would have an exam. And that exam was he would ask questions about each player, and you had to answer those. If you didn't answer them right, you're running laps or
Wow.
whatever.
Powerful.
So during camp, you had to go out of your way to learn something about every teammate. Maybe if you're a defensive player, you had to go to the second string offensive guard. You had to learn something about him because you never knew what was going to be on that quiz. And I remember hearing that. I'm like, oh, that is so genius,
Yeah.
because you're creating that camaraderie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talk about culture, right? I mean, both of us are always spending time thinking culture, I think, with the business we work in. One of the
Yeah,
things that I'll share, again, kind of on the basketball theme, but in order to establish culture, because I think culture overplays strategy, everything else, you got to have it right first and foremost. I walked into this Westlake Village High School gym as their new head coach. And I looked around the
yeah,
gym and kind of, wow, man, these are tall kids. I mean, I had 6'11", 6'10", I mean, really big kids. And
yeah,
they were all kind of, I'll just say, soft. I felt they were more interested in how they looked rather than how they were, as far as being a
yeah,
basketball player. And I realized I got a challenge here because I can have everybody looking good, but not winning any games. And being the guy in the records I'd
yeah.
had in the past, I wanted to win games, of course. So I immediately locked on to something called Psycho D. See, defense wins.
Okay.
Defense wins games. I mean, bottom line, I got a guy named Bobby Knight in my past that had a little effect on my mental philosophies on coaching defense. But we got after the Psycho D thing, and what that meant was every practice plan there was a half hour that was dedicated to what I called Psycho D, which you didn't touch the ball, you just did defensive drills, and we cranked up the music
Okay.
and made it crazy, right? Well, guess what happened? The cheerleaders picked up on it. They started putting out Psycho D cheers. The pep bands got Psycho D cheers. We got T-shirts being made of us denying the other team getting off the bus at our location, at our school and stuff. And it just became a theme. And we got a common goal around the team is we're going to hold everybody under 50 points. And we actually did that quite often. And it was having that common goal, having that theme, having that culture. Here's what we're about. We are defensive crazy. Got 4 guys into Division I because those guys probably wouldn't have got there otherwise. Because as a college coach, I want a guy who knows how to D up because I know I can count on him. A guy can play defense and rebound. I got a spot for him.
Yeah. Yeah, talent is only going to take you so far. You got to dig deep for the rest of it. And you get into the sporting world, especially professional sports. Um, all those you get to that level of professional basketball. They all can run like the wind. They all can dunk the ball. They all can do that. They all can. Every one of them can. But what separates them is the one that's just got that extra drive, that extra thing. That's what set. MJ. I mean, I'm sorry, he's the greatest basketball. He's
First,
the
I
greatest
was
when it
thinking
comes
of
to
when you said
professional
that, Rob.
basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't, people have this debate: is it LeBron or is it MJ? It's MJ. There's not even a question on that. He just had that extra gear that separated him, and he would freely admit, yeah, there were so many shots that he missed. He didn't make every shot. He didn't make every game-winning shot, but he still took it. He still took them. You knew when he had the ball, something was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that special, the 10-part series about the Last Dance. Did you watch that at
Yes, I
all?
did. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So that last championship, that one episode of that last championship, when they won the last championship against Utah Jazz, and how they won it, you're just thinking, wow, okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
he was the difference maker. He was the difference maker,
Yeah.
and this was the one championship that he actually took the winning shot. He was going to take the winning shot because so many other championships, if you get the ball to someone else, take the winning shot because he lived out of abundance. But this was his time. This was his go time, and he left his mark. He left his indelible mark.
Well, it's fantastic as that Bulls team was and everything. I always, and I've read a fair amount of his stuff, I guess, but the coach was pretty darn good.
The coach was good. The coach was good, but he knew which buttons to push. He knew how to massage those egos. He knew how to do it,
Right.
and you have to know how to massage those egos. You have to at that level. because they all have egos.
Yeah.
They're all out. They're all alpha dogs. Every one of them is an alpha dog, and you have to keep them, within the parameters of what it is they need to accomplish.
Right. And he did that extremely well, with having Michael Jordan on your team. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, that is. So, so I love this question that you posed. How did we get here and where are we going? So, too many people sometimes they just kind of wake up and they're like, "Hey, how did I get in this position where I'm at?" Well, you didn't get there overnight. It took
Right.
time to get there, but it's not going to take you as long to get out. So when you have some of your clients come and maybe there's
Right.
something going on with their business or they can't figure it out. I mean, how do you work with them to reverse engineer how they got there and what are they going to do to get to
Right.
that next destination?
It comes down to the values that people hold, I think, in a lot of ways, as far as how you got there, and getting people to share where their values, what's important to them, what's been important to them in the past, I think is a lot of how you got there.
Yeah.
And we can all reflect on all kinds of things, and getting people to reflect by asking questions and so on. But I really try to drill in a little more on what's important to you, because what's real important is what's in front of us. I often talk about give the analogy. Well, gee, have you ever figured out why the rear view mirror is so small?
Behind
we
you.
got to look out that windshield and make some decisions.
Yeah.
So where you're going is where I like to get people thinking, as to where are we going? What are we going to, from what we build on?
Yeah.
It goes back to the deliberate practice. What does it give you passion and thrill to do? Because if you're doing that, you don't have to worry about a lot of other things. Do what you have passion about and good things will happen. So grabbing your past to get that, and then paving a path forward that says, hey, I get to do more of what turns me on, what gets me excited.
And it's about where your focus is. To kind of take the driving analogy. I heard I can't remember what race car driver it was, but he was just he was doing an interview and he talked about that when the car goes into a spin, that if he wants to regain control, he's got to look down the track. If he looks down the track, he's got a much better chance of steering out. But if he's focused on the wall, 100%, he's going into the wall. 100%.
Yeah, what's that tell you about?
But it's just where your focus is at.
Yeah, and aligning that focus into the proper area, for you is the great thing of being a coach and guiding people to that. Because sometimes they need a little guidance to lock in on that.
Yeah, and we all have the answers within us. We all do.
Right.
But sometimes it's just hard to get out of our own way. And we all have blind spots. Every one of us does. We all do. But you need those people in your life. I call them truth tellers to point out those blind spots to you. Yeah. And we've got to have them in our life, especially if we want to take our life to that next level.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have those people to elevate us,
you're
going to be stuck in that rut of where you're at.
Yeah, here's a good one for you around something like that. I was working with a guy out of Nigeria. Abidjan, Nigeria, connected with somebody else I met here was Nigerian, said, you need to talk to this coach, whatever. This is interesting. I'll get on it, for sure, get on a Zoom call from Nigeria. So I went through my first couple of calls with him. It turns out he's a furniture builder, kind of in a bit like a general contractor, but more building up classy furniture for people and so on. And totally different work environment. So I started asking him some questions about how it's going. Well, it turns out very quickly I recognize he's the boss that you and I would never want to work for. He was gruff and, hardcore, and as from a disc perspective, a high D, it was demanding and kind of, fist stomping, that kind of guy. And back to your, rather than abundance, in the wrong direction. And so I had a little call with him, and I made this comment. I said, hey, Paul, I've got something to talk to you about, and you're not going to like, and I'm not going to like telling you. Is now a good time? And I just let it sit. And of course he goes, I guess so. And so I had done the disc analysis with him, and I talked about the D and the inability to oftentimes from that perspective to see the view of the others and how you're affecting them by your behavior. So I drew out several scenarios like that. Well, while I'm doing this, his wife is in the background of the camera giving me the, yeah, tell him, coach. Yeah, tell him. It was fantastic. Well, the bottom line of the story is that, he transformed, he got it. He says, yeah, I'm going to try to change some of this. And we worked on that. And all of a sudden he was getting input from his employees. They were feeling like they were a part of it. They were part of the team. And he got an opportunity, all of a sudden, a huge proposal for a multi-million-dollar mansion kind of palace thing. And that came across the board. And he's going, how am I going to do this, coach? What the heck? And I said, well, now you got a team in place that can help you. And so he took it to the team, and guess what? They won it. And then he didn't meet me anymore, but I was happy.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. When I see one of my clients succeed with what they really want, that gives me a charge. I'm more happy about that than I think they are.
Yeah.
Because I knew I did my job. I knew I did what they hired me to do. 100%.
Have you felt like you care more about the business as you're working and coaching versus than they do about their business? You ever had that feeling?
Yeah, well, I have, and I have had that feeling, and I've definitely have had that feeling as well. That you see things that maybe they're not seeing, and maybe relationships they have, or and you really want them to take that next step with it, and to take that next level, and take action with it, and be that best version of who they want to be. So we all want to be better. We all want to elevate, for who we are. And if you find yourself, like I've heard it, and it's very true. It's very true. If you find yourself as the smartest person in the room, it's time to go find a new room.
Even if you're thinking it.
Yeah, and I'm part of an organization now where I'm around some incredible men. I'll be honest. Sometimes I feel a little intimidated, but it forces me to be better. It forces me to elevate myself, elevate my game, take my game to that next level. And hey, that's what it's about. Create those experiences in your life. I'm at this point in my life right now where I want two things. I want people that are going to elevate me, and I want experiences. And that's what life's about. Is finding those experiences and finding that way to elevate what it is you want to accomplish.
Well,
something you did was a great accomplishment. And I know we're about ready. I think Tour de France starts this weekend. I think it starts Saturday. It's coming up. I think it does start this weekend. You did your own mini Tour de France. Tell me about that.
Yeah, when I made I was making a transformation, right, where I'd been a high school coach and school teacher for 12 years. I had the opportunity to become the assistant coach at California Lutheran University. And when I was making that transition, I kind of had a choice of whatever I wanted to take my graduate degree in. And I thought, you know what, this is the time to sharpen the saw. So I made the decision to take my bike, a Cannondale Super Tour bike, up to Jasper, Alberta, and had that loaded up, spent a little time camping out there with the family, and said, see you in LA or see you in Thousand Oaks. And I started riding, and I rode a total of 2,300 miles, and I did in 23 days. Now, when I go back to deliberate practice, I think you have to recognize I'd ridden many close to 1,000-mile tours before. It wasn't like I was a rookie and just decided, I'm going to go do this. I mean, deliberate practice was there, and I knew what I was doing. So anyway, off I rode, and what an experience that was. Throughout the Rocky Mountains, it was camp wherever I wanted. I had all my camping gear, of course, a little tent, I even had a little fishing rod. I'd pull up, find a spot along a little sand.
So you were on your own. They didn't even trail. You didn't have a trail.
No sag at all. 100% solo.
Right.
So you had to learn to communicate well and communicate with people, and I got to be an expert. I mean, if somebody says it's 3 miles down the road and it's really 10, that could be a big difference, and of course, every ounce counts. You want to go as light as you can and so on. I'll just share with you. It's a real fun story of when I got into the Redwoods area. I was now on the Pacific coast. So I'd done the mountains and got to Portland, and now I'm riding down Highway number 1 all the way down. And I'm camping out this first evening, when I was in the Redwoods area, and a guy pulls in to this camp area, which is for bikers. And he's got ski poles. Real strong, solid guy, but he's got ski poles sticking out of the back of his pack. And so, we're sitting around the campfire, and I kind of, I got to ask. I said, "Hey, his name is Axel, and he's a German guy that he was riding from Alaska all the way to San Diego, or I think that's where he was heading." And I'm saying, "So what about the ski poles?" He said, "Well, I was using those when I was, up in Alaska, going across some ice fields with them." I'm going, "Oh man, this guy's serious, whatever." So in the next morning, I jump on my bike. I'm out of there before he is. He's sleeping in longer, and I'm down the road. Thought I'll probably never see the guy again. Who knows, And 3 days later, I'm in an area called Modesto. It's I pull into, typical routine when I'm riding like that would be get up in the morning. Everything's wet, right? Because on the coast, it's all moist. And anyway, so you'd eat a couple bars and throw down some water and pack up your tent, and then get to a place where it's sunny and take it all out and dry it out. And about that time, I'd like to get 10 miles in and find a decent breakfast spot or somewhere around that. So that's what I had done in Modesto. So I'm sitting in this Modesto restaurant with a lot of people that are day cyclists, so to say. And here I'd put a few miles on, and I was a bit of an anomaly to them. And they're asking me, what about this and all that? And we're sitting there and having breakfast, and I'm kind of the center of attention, and probably not minding it, either. All of a sudden I look up and ski poles go down. Ski poles go down in front of me on the road, and I'm going, holy cow. I jump up. Nobody knows anything about, I run out the door and I'm yelling, hey, Axel, come back. And people are thinking, what the heck? I look back and all of their faces are like on the window. Axel comes up to me, and of course I'm hugging him and kind of look back at everybody, walk in, and everybody thinks that I was yelling, hey, asshole. And I was going to go out there and whoop him for some reason and whatever. They had no idea that Axel and asshole sounded so alike.
Yeah, that's funny. The farthest I've ever gone on a bike in a single day, I did a 70-mile ride one time, and I started in mountain bike riding. That's how I started. I had to step away because I had a few too many visits to the ER. I, broke some ribs one time. You kind of wipe out, and you get that, bark and stuff in your skin. So get that debrided. There's 3 guarantees you ride a bike long enough. You're going to get caught in the rain. You're going to get a flat tire, and you're going to have a spill. It's a guarantee. And I
100%.
ride down here. My wife wants to ride with me, and I tell her, hey, one of these 3 things are going to eventually happen to you if you ride enough. She's like, well, I'm not going to have a wipeout. I'm like, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I lived in Belgium for a year. You do. I lived in Belgium for a year, and the 1 year I lived there, the Tour de France started just in city of Liège, which was just down the road. So I went out, watching that peloton go by. It was like, wow, it's so powerful watching that peloton go by.
Yeah, how cool.
And watching them climb up those mountains in the Pyrenees and the Alps, you're like, goodness. Because when I lived in Ohio, it was pretty hilly. So I love going up and down hills. Down here in Florida, you're not getting much of hills. It's fairly flat. But there were some hills that I would love to climb up, and some of them were pretty good grade. We're talking like 7-8%, which is pretty substantial grade. There's one hill in particular. It was about a half a mile, and it was probably about 8%. So you get up, and you kind of level out, and it just kept going like that. And it was just one of these rides. Goodness. And so yeah, I do miss going up and down hills. I do miss that about being down here in Florida. So
on that ride, part of the deal is that I had a granny gear, because of the weight and everything I'm carrying, and I had those kind of grades. I had a gear I could drop down and go like 2 miles an hour and just keep spinning because it was so thin that I could get up those. I remember going into Santa Barbara, and I'm coming up the hill, and of course, when you smell the brakes of the big 18-wheelers, the kind of burn that smell, you got a big hill coming, right? It was a clue. You got real good at that. Well, I'm coming up this hill, and I'm going, all right, well, then a big 18-wheeler's coming right with me, and guess what? I was able to hook right on the back and draft him going down the hill.
There you go. Yeah.
And then I broke 60 miles an hour on that pedal bike.
Wow, that's cool. You're flying. I think the fastest I've ever gone was almost 50 miles an hour.
It's fast. You don't want to make a mistake.
And you're flying. And you don't want to exactly. You don't want to make a mistake. And you talk about a truck. One time I was going down US 23 in Ohio, and the medium's pretty wide, but I got a little too close to the white line there, which, out of the medium, and this truck goes flying by, and it sucked me right into its draft. I was like, whoa. It kind of that freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always heard about that, but it's a thing. They will suck you into that draft at 100%. So,
And another biking thing, but on a different element. I would use as when I was a head coach at Westlake Village, I didn't have a car. I basically
yeah.
rode my bike everywhere, 20 miles a day, every day. And I was going
Okay.
to my first coaches meeting for the Conejo Valley Coaching Association, whatever, the head coaches. And I'm heading over there on my bike, and I'm kind of excited because it's the first time I'm going to meet all the other coaches, an official situation. I'm ripping along. I'm going down this one hill. I can't remember the name of the road, but all of a sudden, a German Shepherd walks out in between two cars, and I T-bone it going 20 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Boom. I'm airborne forever. Land, bust out some ribs, pretty beat up.
Yeah.
But the drive, the name, the title in this book, and I describe this, the drive is phenomenal. I mean, my adrenaline, I got that bike. I picked the bike up. The dog is laying on the ground, whimpering and dying. Throw the bike in the back of somebody's pickup truck and said, take me to Thousand Oaks High School for this meeting. And I walk into the meeting carrying my bike around. I got blood coming down. You can be so driven in things that you do that you can become blinded to your safety. And that was really kind of the thing that I realized how driven I had really been, and again, a bike accident, it was not a good one, poor dog, and certainly I walked away from it. I did spend a little time with the doctor after that, get some things.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, I've broken ribs before. I've gone over the handlebars a couple of times, and that feeling you're helpless at that point, like, all right, but you just gotta tuck and roll. I at least know how to fall a little bit, so tuck and roll to absorb the impact. But hey, Greg, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I know we're kind of coming up on the time here. Enjoyed your insights. I've enjoyed just kind of the stories, but as we wind down here, do you have any parting wisdom, parting shots you would like to share?
Well, I think more than anything, find your true authenticity in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when with that is be true to yourself, be true to those around you, be honest, and don't have to make up stories, and do your best to serve others. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing, and we only have limited time. I had the situation, and I'm very fortunate in that, even though it was kind of like get your stuff in order, maybe even an obituary, when I crossed that line, and then turned around to be able to hear the messages from people that said, good golly, Coach, you made a difference in my life this way, that way, that way. And I got hundreds of those messages. And the message from the big guy upstairs was saying, I'm saving your life, and you're going to go do this and do it well for the rest of your life. And guess what? I am, and I'm having the most fun I've ever had. So I just encourage people to find that passion and go get it.
Have fun with life. Life is too short to be miserable all the time. Have fun with it and just be the best. So if people want to reach you, this is the best email to reach you. They can also go to your website if they want to go ahead and schedule a call with you. There's a link there to go ahead and grab some time.
And you can find me on Amazon. Yeah, you can find me on
Amazon as well.
Coach Hess.
So that book is live now. Coach Hess. So that book is live now. Hey, yes. Hey, also, what is going to be live this Friday, the Virtual Friday Whiskey Hour, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Go ahead and stop on by. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure the conversation will be great. There's no requirement to drink whiskey. Bring your favorite beverage. If it's whiskey, if it's wine, if it's beer, if it's water, I don't care. But just stop by and enjoy the conversation. I look forward to the opportunity to connect with you there. But Greg, this has been a great conversation. Like I said, I've really enjoyed this. Let's make the most of this day. Let's make the most of the life we have and live it in a way that's powerful and impactful, out of abundance. Create that significance each and every day, because we have the opportunity to do that each and every day. Let's live life to the fullest. Let's elevate ourselves. But hey, I hope everybody got some value out of this conversation. This ends another Imperfect Action live stream. Peace out.
All right.